Good morning, Clearbranch kids. As you know, this month we have been learning all about forgiveness. And today, for our last lesson to close out this month, we've got one more for you. Now, you may remember how last week we talked about sometimes people would ask Jesus questions and he would try to give them answers and explain things to them, but sometimes they didn't get it. And so he would use a story called a parable to try to help them understand. And today's story is that same thing. So there was a day when Jesus was out preaching and there were all kinds of people gathered around to listen. And some of those people were tax collectors. Some of them were people that the religious leaders, the Pharisees, considered not worthy to be around someone who was like Jesus, a respected teacher, someone who said that they were the Son of God. And so they were questioning why Jesus would be with these kinds of people. And Jesus was trying to explain to the Pharisees what this was all about. And so he told three stories. The first was about a shepherd who had lost a sheep and all the things he went through and how he left the entire flock to go find this one. And then he told a story about a widow who had lost one coin, and she stayed up all night and shined a light in every corner to try to find that one coin. And then he told a third story. Now, while all of these three stories explain how God found each of us to be worthy of him and valuable, the third story went a little bit further, and so that's the one we're going to talk about today. In this story, there was a man who had two sons. Now, in those days when a man died who had sons, after his death, everything that he had would be inherited by those sons, the majority to the older son. And so the younger son, though, would get something, and he decided that he was tired of this small town life and he wanted to blow the dust off his heels, and he didn't want to wait until his father died for his inheritance so that he could live it large. And so he went to his father and he asked his father to go ahead and give him his inheritance now. Now, this probably made his father really sad because, of course, a parent just wants their child to stay close to them. And this child made it very clear that all he wanted was to get as far away as possible. But the father loved his son, and so he did that. He gave him his inheritance now. And I'm sure he told him that he loved him and to be careful and wear a warm coat, all those things that parents do. And the son struck out to live his life. And for a while, everything was wonderful. He had all kinds of money. And so he had so many friends, not real friends, of course, that wanted to hang out with him. And they partied and they went to big dinners and they did all kinds of fun things. But then there came a day when all of the money was gone. And suddenly all of his friends were gone too. And he had no place to live and no way to eat. And the son found himself doing things that he could have never believed. And one day he was feeding pigs to try to, for some work, to do something. And as he was feeding these pigs, he realized that the slop that he was feeding those pigs he was eating this himself, right? So that he would have a way to survive. And he realized that even the servants at his father's home were living so much better than he was. And he realized that he had made a mistake. And so the son decided that he would swallow his pride and that he would head back home. And he probably rehearsed the whole way home all the things that he would say to his father about how he was wrong and he should have respected him and he had made a mistake, and that if he could just be a servant at his father's home, that he would know that he had made that mistake and he would cherish his time with his father once again. But he probably never dreamed that his father would actually forgive him for the mistake he had made. Well, the son's getting closer and closer to home, and my bet is that his stomach is getting clenched tighter and tighter and tighter, just knowing that probably his father is going to send him away. But someone saw him coming, and that someone was his father. And when he saw his son coming, he had a servant go get the best coat in the house and to go slaughter the best, fattest, juiciest pig and to prepare for the most wonderful feast because his son had come home. And after he had taken care of all that, he ran out to meet his son and he threw his arms around him and welcomed him home. And then the son told him, he said, "I'm sorry, I made a mistake. I was wrong. I would love for you to forgive me, but I know you probably can't. But if I can just even be a servant here, I promise I won't take it for granted again. And the father said, no, you're my son. Of course you're going to live in the house. You're going to take your old place because that's who you are and that's who I am. What Jesus was trying to tell them that day is that that's who God is too. He loves each one of us. None of us are perfect. We're all imperfect, some in more obvious ways than others. But we are all his child, just like that son who made those mistakes, was selfish and self-centered and didn't show his love to his father very well. We make those mistakes too. But we can always go back home to God just like that son went home to his father, because just like that father, God will always forgive us. And that's our bottom line for this week. Y'all have a great week.